Hello, everyone. Uh-oh. Okay, the countdown should have stopped. Hello, everyone. Please hit that like button as you guys come in. Also, can you please let me know if you guys can hear me well and if I'm coming through clearly? Please put a one in the chat. I say that because it was almost like I could still hear the background music playing. So let me know that you guys can hear me clearly. Please put a one in the chat if you can. Please and thank you. Am I coming in clearly? Please hit that like button as you guys come in. Thank you very much. Hit that like button as you guys come in. Okay, I see a one in the chat. Okay, so I'm going to just start. So first of all, I hope you guys have had a wonderful day. Hope you guys have had a blessed day. Hope everything has been good with your day. I want to talk about a lot of things today. Honestly, I actually watched the episode of Real Housewives of Atlanta. I watched it twice. And normally I would watch it once and then I will watch certain clips over and over again. This time around, I decided to watch it twice because I did not want to miss anything that was crucial that I really wanted to talk about. So I was like, let me go back and play this again and again. Okay, here are my thoughts. I want to start with Angela and Charles. First of all, Miss Angela, girl, I am so embarrassed for you. I'm really so embarrassed for you. Like, I like you, girl, but that man looks like he did not want to be bothered with your call. At first, I thought it was so embarrassing that she kept trying to reach him. She called him, called him. Yes, I understand people can be busy, but even when she talked about with the girlie, she was like, "Oh yeah, I couldn't really speak to him for the anniversary because he was cooking or something like that, cooking for the kids." And I'm like, even if he's cooking for the kids or the kid, whatever the case may be, it is your anniversary. You mean to tell me that he cannot stop cooking for a moment and speak to you, his wife? That is very odd. That is so shocking and so unbelievable to me that your husband, as a husband, you couldn't just give your wife 5 seconds, you couldn't give her 5 minutes, you couldn't talk to her and wish her a happy anniversary, you couldn't send some flowers up to where she's staying at. You could have done so many different things, but you chose not to do any of those things. That was on you. You should have picked that up and done something about it. Yes, you didn't pick up her call. And it then seemed like she was out here trying to make excuses for him in the confessionals. And I think that's the saddest part of it for me. I don't like when I feel like women are having to make excuses for their husband's bad behavior. It's like, why does she have to now be the one trying to make you look better when you don't even care about how you're coming across to the world? The least you can do is show up, pick up her calls, wish her happy anniversary, send up a gift or something. And what makes it even more embarrassing is when Angela sits in her confessionals and she says things like, every time we're falling more and more in love with each other. I'm like, girl, are you the only one falling in love with him? Because he does not seem like he's falling in love with you. When you asked him if he when the producer asked him if he loves you, he couldn't even muster up the words to say that he loves you. Instead, he was pretty much there like, cat cut his tongue. It was pretty much there like, yeah, I'm not getting involved. He was pretty much there like, yeah, crickets about whether or not he loves you. A man that loves you will not leave you guessing. A man that loves you will step in, even if he's not very vocal about how he loves you. If a question is asked, he would have to respond. He would have to engage about that just so that you feel comfortable knowing fully well that he loves you, right? Instead, this man just looks at her, doesn't even care whether or not she looks crazy or he looks crazy. He does not care. That is a man that does not care about you, in my opinion, right? And so for her to stay in her confessionals talking about, we fall in love with each other every other day, like, girl, are you delulu? Are you delulu? Because it is not adding up. It is given, you think you're in love, but he does not see that at all. He does not think you're in love with him, or he does not think he's in love with you. He is not even bothered either way. He's not out here trying to even do anything nice for you, be kind to you, just the basic stuff that you need out of a relationship, for crying out loud. We're not out here saying, okay, do extreme grand gestures, even though that would be nice. I'm sure your wife would appreciate that. But at the same time, like, do anything, sir. Show up. But it's like nothing. It's zilch. And it's so embarrassing. It really is. And I think it was so sad for me to like watch when she was like, "Oh, you didn't miss me, or do you miss me?" And this man was looking at her like, "Okay." He didn't even say, "Oh, baby, I miss you," or like, "Yeah, girl, of course, come back home, come back home." Something that could have even been it. We would have been okay, content. Oh, he's old fashioned, he's old school, he's not really doing too much. That would have been okay. But man did not even engage. He was just like, yeah, okay. He did not even tell her how beautiful she looks. Now, maybe they cut that bit out, but I doubt it. And she was looking really gorgeous. She was looking good. During this vacation, she has been looking 10 out of 10. And so I just feel like, Charles, it's not right for you to embarrass her, bring her on the show to embarrass her. The other part that bothers me also is, I'm like, Angela, do you know that this is the kind of man he is? Or is he now? Because he doesn't come across as the person that will come here and now start switching up. What it comes across a little bit is like, maybe Angela is thinking like, yeah, he's not really much for like the public display of affection, but at least we're in public, he's going to bring it and show up and act right. That's what it's actually starting to look like or seem like. But that man does not want to be bothered. He does not want to be bothered with her. He does not seem interested in her. And it is so sad to hear. It's so sad to watch. Like, it is given, sis, you are in a relationship with yourself. You are single, honey. And the saddest part is, even when she was telling the girlies that, he doesn't wear his ring. I'm like, girl, what do you mean he doesn't wear his ring? What do you mean he does not wear his ring? Now, let's say he was a husband that affirms his wife, that is always like, yeah, I love you, and loving up on his wife. Maybe we wouldn't be so bothered about the fact that he doesn't wear his ring. But I think the fact that he isn't that, everyone is looking at it a little sideways. Because we're all thinking, you do not wear your ring. What else are you doing? Allegedly. Okay. I don't understand how there is an anniversary and you're not like, oh, baby, I miss you. Or even like, I miss you. Or even you look lovely. That could have been okay. Something. He's looking like he cannot be bothered with her. He does not want any parts of her. He even looks like she's bothering him by calling him. And that is like, girl, what are we doing? And so it's just so embarrassing to listen to watch. It's so cringeworthy. I'm so embarrassed for her. Like, I'm like, girl, if you know this man that don't be picking up, then stop calling him. You could have just been at the freaking vacation having a good time and completely forget about the fact that you have a man. Just text him or whatever. There was no reason for you to call him, knowing fully well that this was what he was going to be on, right? Because Charles doesn't come across as somebody who this is new to. Charles comes across as, this is what he does, this is the kind of person he is, and that's what he's on. So I think for me, I'm just like, yeah, it's so embarrassing to see. Like, I'm not blaming you, Angela. I think Charles is an asshole, in my opinion. But I think that the least that Angela needs to do to at least save face is stop calling that man. Stop calling him. Leave that man alone and have a good time whilst you're on holiday. Let him see you having fun. Let him see you living your life outside of him because he does not care. He is not bothered. You're the only one in that relationship, honey. And the earlier you see it, the better for everybody, in my opinion. Now, guys, hit that like button. The likes are not matching the amount of people watching. So please hit that like button as you guys come in. Now, there is one thing that I picked up on that I really wanted to talk about. So when they were in the van, it was, I believe, Shamea, Cynthia, Portia, and so when they were in the van, and Phaedra, right? When they were in the van, did you guys pick up when they were talking, when Shamea was talking about Brit to the girls? And Cynthia was like, okay, so what did her best friend Kelly say to Brit about it? Did you guys pick up what Shamea said? Shamea said, Kelly agrees with everything I'm saying, which means that Kelly and Shamea have been discussing Brit. And it's like, it was just that subtle remark that she said to Cynthia. And I was like, oh, you guys have been discussing Brit. So this is a conversation that you guys have been having about your so-called best friend. So you guys are both very similar, more similar than I thought. Because Brit, if you're out here saying Kelly's your best friend and Kelly's calling Brit her best friend, but she's out here discussing her best friend with Shamea. And Shamea is out here discussing her so-called best friend with Angela and Drew. There is a pattern there. These people are constantly discussing their so-called best friends. And so I feel like Kelly has flown under the radar because she comes across as a fun girl. But I hope you guys are picking up what I'm putting down. Think about it. Why would you be discussing your best friend with somebody that does not see it for your best friend? That is shady behavior. And the fact that it seems like Kelly didn't even give her so called bestie a heads up, girl, that is wild. It's given both Brit and Shamia do not know how to be loyal, even though they are always talking about loyalty, loyalty, loyalty. It's given that they go wherever the wind blows. So if they're not feeling you and you're their best friend, they're talking about you to someone else right then, and that's just it. Guys, hit that like button as you guys come in. Because I'm like, everybody, yeah, it's cool. Kelly's a fun girl. I agree. But that's some shady behavior if you're out here discussing Brit with Shamia. You didn't even give Brit a heads up about it, but you're discussing Brit with Shamia. Now, I'm about to say something, and some of y'all will drag me for this, but I don't care. Let's go. I feel that Shamia was passive aggressive with Brit. I feel like she was. And before let's backpedal a little bit, right? To the scene where the girls were sort of like they were still in the house, right? They were still indoors, all pretty much getting ready. Shamia then starts walking past and talking about whoever doesn't want a shot can politely decline. And I'm like, okay, girl, it's giving you have an issue, right? That's passive aggressive. Just say, Brit, if you don't want a shot today, that's cool, blah, blah, blah. You could have said that. But instead, she was just there like, it looks like she was reaching and wanted an argument. It was given she wanted a moment with Brit. And I think it's easy with Brit because Brit is on the defensive. Brit is always so ready to go. Brit is almost like one of those girls that are ready to fight all of the time. Not that they're very good at fighting, but they're always ready. They're so defensive. You can't even say something jokingly. They don't take it as a joke. They're ready to fight, right? For no reason at all. You guys could be best of friends. You say something and she perceives it to be a threat, boom, boom. Next thing, you guys have beef, right? So it's easy to want to spark something up with somebody like that because all you have to do is press their buttons because you know exactly what the buttons are. And with someone like Brit, they're very, very easy to press. Please hit that like button. The likes are still not matching, guys. So please hit that like button. So, yeah, it's clear that the buttons are so easy to press. Because if you see the way the dinner panned out, you could see how easy it is to get under Brit's skin. It's very, very easy. That said, Shamia was absolutely passive aggressive because how are you walking around saying, anyone who doesn't want a shot can politely decline? I'm like, okay, girl, like you're giving indirects. And then somehow brings the issue of the shot. So she's just like, what are we doing? Like, what's going on? Like, does she have an issue or something? Right. The next thing she's like, we can't pull up in Birkings and Rolls Royce and not give properly, blah, blah, blah. Now, I agree with the message. I absolutely agree with the message, but I don't think that the way it was brought was the way it should have been brought, in my opinion. Bear in mind that Shamea said in her confessionals, and this is why I say Shamea is reaching. Shamea said in her confessionals that her and Brit already discussed the issue prior. So it's like, if you already discussed the issue prior, why is it being brought up again in a group setting in front of everybody? What was the reason? What was the reason? Literally, what was the reason, Shamea? Wasn't it to, in my opinion, embarrass her in front of everybody? Because why else would you bring that up in front of everybody? Right? Now, is the message correct? Yes, baby, you got a Birkin, you have a Rolls Royce. So I get it. There is an expected standard when it comes to certain giving. So, I get that, right? But at the same time, I agree with what Brit is saying, which is if that was your expectation, next time just pull me to the side and let me know, and that's it. Noted. Because what it comes across is, I think Brit may or may not have the money, right? And I say that because I don't know what her pockets are like. But I feel like she probably spent a lot of the budget on the looks because some of the looks be given, right? So I think she spent at least the confessional ones, right? So she probably spent a lot of coins on the glam, but then may or may not have funds for generally other things. Maybe her budget is not like, dragging all the way, right? Is that okay? I'm not saying that, she couldn't have given more, blah, blah, blah. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that maybe she doesn't have it like that, but I can understand how, from outside looking in, you have a Birkin and a Rolls Royce. Of course, people are expecting you to spend more. But that's why I say the message I get, you can absolutely communicate it to her, girly. Don't be showing up over here with 3 toilet rolls. Next time when I expect giving, I expect a minimum of this amount. Okay? So please. And when she asked you what to do, you could have said minimum of this. So that could have also been avoided, right? So I think Brit is clueless, in my opinion, and I think she needs some coaching. I think Brit is clueless about a lot of things, and we'll talk about some other bits like later on. But I think Brit is clueless about a lot of things. Brit is clueless about how things run. Brit is clueless about basic etiquette, like a lunch without a lunch. Like that's crazy, right? Like you have an event without food. Nuts, in my opinion. At least the way it was portrayed to us, honey. Everything was disorganized. So it's given she doesn't have basic etiquette. And that's what I'm starting to figure out, right? From what I'm seeing. But I will say Brit was right. Shamia was coming across as passive aggressive, in my opinion. Because if you have an issue, just say it. Don't give descriptors such as, oh, came in a Birkin and a Rolls Royce and expect me to not feel some type of way or feel like you're shading me. And I think Brit was right when she was like, yeah, it feels a little bit like shade. She could have said, like, yeah, girl, it's shade, but it is what it is. We've talked about it. It's not a big deal, right? That could have rounded it up. But Shamia proceeds to deny it. If it's a shade, you will know. I'm like, girl. So what was the point of that example if it wasn't shade? You know exactly what you were doing. It was shady. And everything was set up for that to be a moment, in my opinion. And so I feel like it's acting delusional and acting oblivious. And that's why people struggle with Shamea. Because people feel like, girl, why are you acting like we can't see? It's the same way she was saying, like, oh, Portia brought up, excuse me, Portia brought up a personal business to be discussed by this group of women when she was the one that brought it up. She was the one that started the drama, right? That's what it's giving because it's like, girl, honey, you started with Brit. Now, do I think Brit handled it poorly? Absolutely. But she did start with Brit. She did. Absolutely did. Because why else are you giving those descriptives if you didn't want that kind of smoke? And then for Kelly to chime in and to basically say, like, Brit doesn't really know how to show up. I'm like, girl, are you trying to defend your friend or are you trying to embarrass your friend? Which is it? Because that's not how you show up for a friend. That's not what you say about your friend in front of a group. Absolutely not. So I feel like, yes, Kelly, honey, you could have stayed out of it. Kelly is always getting involved in things that do not concern her. It's funny, I feel like Kelly is becoming Shamia's lapdog. Well, on the bright side, at least Shamia has a lapdog. So I guess must not be too bad. But it's given not Brit, sorry. Kelly is Shamia's lapdog. That's what it's given. Because it's like, why else do you constantly jump in conversations? Why else are you always joining the chatter about Portia? So far, we haven't even seen anything between you and Portia since the first episode. So, what is all this venom that you have for Portia outside of the show? So it's just things like that that it makes it hard to like resonate with some of these cast members because it just feels like they're doing too much, especially the newbies. It just feels like they're team too much. They're dragging things out. They're reaching for a storyline or at least reaching for a moment that is not necessary. Now, Brit, here's where I feel like you missed the mark. I actually appreciated Brit calling out Shamea on the passive aggressive BS. Because sometimes you have to call it what it is. And you can see how Shamea got tight. She was necking and she was not having any of it, you could tell. But I think where Brit missed the mark was after they had then moved off of the conversation, and Portia was then saying, yeah, you said you don't feel supported by the group. And Portia was basically trying to explain, like, girl, you don't invite anyone to anything. So it's like, how can you feel supported if you don't invite people into to support you, right? She didn't even let her land, honey. Brit was defensive. And this is what I say about like Brit. I liked you more this episode than I've liked you this season. However, I feel like Brit gives very much ready to fight energy. Brit gives Mortal Kombat ready. She's like, ready, let's go. That's the energy or I feel like I always get from Brit. It's giving like, yeah, let's get in the ring. And I'm like, girl, chill. Someone can't even give you some constructive feedback without you taking it left. So I kind of felt like either she was already heated with the whole Shamia thing and then was already on the defensive and did not even listen to understand where Portia was coming from with the conversation. I was just ready to go. So I wonder if it could have been that. So I'm going to give her grace on that. But I do think that she needs to learn some conflict resolution skills. I think she shows up. It's like it's like bringing Pow Pow to a knife fight. Okay? Think about it. It's like, girl, there's no need for you to be out here trying to empty the clip, right? There is no reason for that. Let's just have a conversation. It does not have to be, and this is why, like Angela, for instance, people love Angela, right? Because even when Angela is clocking people and calling you out, she has a very calm demeanor. She does not look bothered. She does not look like she's, you know, overheated and hyperventilating. She looks calm as she reads people for filth, right? But when you look like you are heated, people don't really like that because it's just like, girl, why are you so heated? What is going on? We're just trying to have a conversation, honey, and you don't took it to the left. And I think that is what, sorry to say, actually, I'm not sorry to say, I said what I said. And that is what I feel like Brit, that's where I feel like Brit fits in. So it's like you take it too far, you get too heated in these conversations, you lack basic conflict resolution skills. And I wonder if that stems from, like, not having, because she's also talks about not having a lot of female friendships. I feel like when you don't have a lot of female friendships, you struggle with conflict resolution skills because a lot of I'll give you an example. I feel like with when you are friends with a man and you're a woman, for the most part, right? A lot of you guys' discussions and stuff is hardly ever around conflict resolution skills or conflict resolution in at all. If you have issues with them, they could be like, yo, I didn't like what you said last night. They may not even go into details about it, and then they're like, oh, but we're cool now. So it's all right, innit? Right? Move on. The guy just feels like, all right, ready to brush you under the rug. For the most part, I'm generalizing, guys, before you're like, oh, not all men. I'm not saying all men, please. Try to understand the message. But what I'm saying is, in a lot of female to male dynamic, right? The relationship is different. It's different from when you have female to female dynamic, right? Where if you do something I don't like, we have a conversation about it, we iron it out, we get to the bottom of it. There's no need for shouting or anything, but I express myself, you express yourself, we try to find some common ground. But I feel like because she hasn't had a lot of female friendships and she hasn't really had a lot of female friends, I feel like it is obvious because she perceives any sort of conversation or constructive feedback or any sort of feedback almost as a threat. And it feels like, no, this person is coming for me. And I think also that could stem from like maybe experiencing a lot of bullying in the past. So you're just so defensive because you think everyone is coming for you. So you're always on guard. So I do think that yes, I feel like that's where Brit is coming from. I think there is a guard when it comes to her. She has a guard up. She's very defensive. So, yes, someone could be wrong. Yes, whatever. You could just be trying to have a simple conversation and it escalates when it doesn't need to escalate because she doesn't have basic conflict resolution skills. That is just my opinion on that. Now, please hit that like button, guys. For those of you who are just coming in, please hit that like button. We're talking about Real Housewives of Atlanta, the latest episode. All right. So, I will say this. Phaedra was cracking me up this episode. She really was cracking me up this episode. I loved her confessionals. I think that's the fun thing that she brings to the show, right? I feel like a lot of the newbies, their confessionals is not really memorable at all. But I feel like so far I've enjoyed like Angela's confessionals in terms of the newbies, some of Shamea's, Portia's, and Phaedra's so far. And I feel like there are points where Phaedra says some things and you're just like, girl, please. So I love how she brings some lightheartedness to the show because I feel like the show has been missing a lot of lightheartedness, especially with the stupid storylines that we have gotten this season. I'm actually quite offended about the storylines this season. But I will say, we have gotten some fun moments, even though she's only been here for one full episode. So I would say big up to Phaedra. She's definitely working hard. She is clocking in. She just came in, but she is clocking in. Let me know what y'all think in the chat. Like, are you loving Phaedra this season? Or are you just like they should have kept her? She didn't need to show up this season. Let me know in the chat. Now, I will say there was something she said that cracked me up. She was like, most men are crazy when she was talking about the whole Angela and Charles situation, but most women love penises. So it's almost like, what are we going to do? And girl, when I say that cracked me up, I was like, all right, Phaedra, I see you. Okay, I see you. Now, I want to talk about Phaedra's advice to Brit. Phaedra was giving Brit some good advice. And I will say this, I can't believe I'm saying this, but I genuinely feel I wish that Brit got a second season and that things had turned out differently for her, because I think we would have seen a more softer, fun side of Brit. I think we would have. I think this episode made me realize, oh, I see why they decided to cast her. She is a fun girl. She is a sweet girl. And I know you guys will be like, oh my gosh, why suddenly you seem to like Brit? Like, girl, please, like is such a strong word. No, I'm just saying, genuinely, in this episode, I feel like I liked her than I ever liked her from the whole season. I feel like the whole season I couldn't stand her. And then this episode, I was like, oh, Brit isn't bad, you know? Like I kind of just looked at her for a moment. I was like, Brit isn't bad. So I would say the advice that Phaedra gave her was spot on. Like she literally said to her, you stay on ready. Like it's almost like you're ready to go every single time. So someone says one little thing. It could be even defending you, girl. Your mouth would open wide. You're ready to go. Like it's like, what is going on? Why so quick to respond? And that's what it feels like. It just feels like she is so quick to respond. And I agree with what Phaedra says, is like, you need to be more friendly. If you're joining a girl group, a group of girls, new friends, you need to be sweet, you need to be friendly, you need to give people the opportunity to get to know you. And she was just like, it sounds like she's making more enemies than friends. And I couldn't agree more. And I think it's just because she's so on the defensive, that she can't even realize that, girl, I am overdoing it. I'm not showing up in the way in which I should be showing up. I need to relax more and have a good time. I just think that that's what it is. She is almost like, it's almost like, you know, when someone has been picked on so much in their lives that they are almost expecting somebody to say something. Like it's like you could be saying nice things about them and they're waiting for the other shoe to drop. I feel like that's the vibe I get when it comes to Brit. It's like everything is good, but she's expecting the other shoe to drop, which is so sad, because it's like, what happened in your life where you feel like everybody's against you, or people are always ready to like come at you and you're just so on the defensive and you're ready to go. It's like, girl, just relax and enjoy the group. And I think it could also be because if you notice, when she was in a smaller group, her energy seemed happier. It's almost like she seemed like relaxed. She seemed like, oh, we're all having such a good time. That was her vibe. But maybe she knows that when they have these group hangouts and when everyone is seated, all those dinners, the dinners always end up in with somebody in the middle of some drama, with something being brought up or something like that. So I think maybe that's what it is. Maybe she's just already like on the defensive because she knows something is going to go down. These things happen all the time. She's just like, it wouldn't be shocking if it happens again. So let me just be ready. And I wouldn't blame anyone who feels like they need to be ready, because on these kind of shows, if you're not ready, then you will get dragged. And I think the fact that she's probably been dragged by Angela, miles on your mouth and all, she's probably like, girl, I need to stay ready, because in that conversation, it was obvious that she was not ready for that. She did not expect it to escalate. to that extent. She did not see it coming in any way. It definitely took a left turn for her. And so I think part of it is the way she comes across now. She's just like, okay, please, I don't even want there to be any sort of opportunity for it to even come or seem like, and I think that's the vibe that I'm getting. Um, I do think Phaedra gave some really good advice. I think that I actually really liked the fact that Phaedra was brought into this, and because I felt like somebody needed to give her good advice. And I will, well, and I'm not confident that like Cynthia would have said that to her. So I'm glad that at least somebody could pull her to the side, almost like a big auntie, like, girl, do not play yourself. You need to be, if you can't be in a girl group if you are not getting along with the people in the group, especially if you want to be here. So if you want to be here, girl, you need to get along with these people. And I think that's some really good advice from Phaedra over there. Now, I know some of y'all may be thinking, like, why is she giving this advice when on Married to Medicine she did not follow her own advice? I think Married to Medicine is probably a different vibe, because I think she genuinely did not want to be on that show anymore. You guys know all of these other things that she has been doing is, in my opinion, was always for her to get back on Real Housewives of Atlanta. I think Real Housewives of Atlanta has always been where her heart is. And everything else was just to try to get back there. It wasn't, in my opinion, um, it wasn't because, oh, she really was Married to Medicine. I think it was more, I want to be on Real Housewives of Atlanta. I want to constantly be in the conversations on Bravo so that I can be brought back to Real Housewives of Atlanta. And once the opportunity came for her to be on Real Housewives of Atlanta, she's like, yep, I do not have to play nice with these women. I do not even like. These women are not my vibe. I am out. And I think that was more what then happened. So I think she is still in a position to give that advice, in my opinion. Being that she's been there, done that, and she's been on how she was on Housewives for a while. She's, despite everything that's happened, she's been on so many Bravo shows. So I think she is one of the best people to give that advice. So I do like that she stepped up almost like a big sis in that moment. And I love how Brit was receptive. And I think part of it is because if you notice, Phaedra has been, cool and buddy buddy with the girls, even though she's in the confessional shading them, shading the heck out of them, but she's been buddy buddies with them. And I hope, like, at the reunion, people are not like upset about the shading in the confessionals. Because my thing is like, girl, that's what you're paid to do, honey. We be out here shading each other. That's why we're getting paid. So I feel like there's a level of like very basic shade. I think that comes with Real Housewives of Atlanta. I think when it starts getting downright or dirty, that's when people have an issue with it. But as long as it's fun shade, lighthearted, not too deep, I think everybody's cool with a little shade there, a little shade here, in my opinion. At least that's how I feel. Now let's fast forward to the final scene. Um, I will say, I love how everyone genuinely rallied around Shamea while she was crying about what happened to her daughter. When her husband called and was talking about the baby being in the cold room, my heart sank. Like, I actually could, I felt emotional. Like, I'm not even an emotional girly, but I was like moved to tears, honey. So I was like, not the poor baby being in a cold room because someone is not making sure the baby is good. Like, you're paid to do your job and take good care of this baby, and how dare you do such? So I was just very heartbroken. So I can't even imagine what Shamia as a mom, what Gerald must have been feeling in that moment. But Gerald sounds like a very hands-on father and husband. So I love that he was like, okay, we've given her Tylenol, she's good for now. If things don't change, I'm taking her to the hospital the next day. So like, he is on it. And at least I think that's the thing. I know people are like, oh, if I were the one, I would be over there back home with my daughter, here's the thing that I think people need to understand. When you have a child or anyone in your family that you're looking after that has special needs, you cannot be there 24/7. If not, you will not have anything else outside of them, right? You still need to be able to show up for your other daughter or other kids if you have kids. You need to be able to show up for your family members, your friends. You need to show up and do all these things as well as that daughter in question, right? Like everything cannot genuinely revolve around this child. You still also need to live your life, right? I'm not saying don't take care. No, you have to take care of your child and make arrangements for your child when you can't be there. But at the same time, people must be delusional to think that every time that she is unwell as a special needs child who has complications, a lot of the times that she has to be there every single time. If that was the case, she will never be able to work. She would never be able to do anything else outside of that child. And I think people need to have some sensitivity until and unless you have special needs child or someone with special needs that you're looking after, you may not understand, right? But I think there should be some empathy there. And I feel like people, it's so easy. Like, don't get me wrong, I talk about other things that Shamia has done, and I feel like she hasn't come through in certain ways this season and all of that. I get it. But when it comes to someone's parenting, I think it's a very tricky area to be commenting on how you feel like you would raise a child like that when you don't have a child like that. So I just think I don't really like how people feel comfortable enough talking about her parenting personally, um in that case. um, but I will say I loved how everyone rallied around her, including Brit. Now I feel like at some point, Brit, okay, I hear you. Like you've been saying, oh yeah, I love you and all of that. I get it, but okay, maybe drop it down a few notches. But I did appreciate the fact that Brit seemed genuinely, and if you guys remember, one episode when I was reviewing, I talked about how I feel like Brit is a sweet girl. And I said that because I said she seems like a forgiving person. I said that because even after Angela said miles on your mouth and all, they were able to become cool. When Angela, it was just like, okay, cool, like it's fine, we can move on, right? Most people will drag it, will feel like they have to get their lick back. Instead, Brit doesn't seem to feel like she has to get her lick back. She's dropped it. And I'm just like, most people are not able to do that. And that's one of the things that I like housewives who are able to move on from grievances and move on from like the shade, the back and forth, and are not salty and then affecting the dynamic of the group. So I thought that was interesting. And it's also interesting that Phaedra said she seems like such a sweet girl, and I'm like, that is the vibe that I get as well. With some of the things. Now I know you guys know we've talked about how I feel like she lacks basic conflict resolution skills. That still is the truth, in my opinion, at least my truth, outside looking in. Um, but I think that it seems like she's genuinely sweet, because when the whole thing happened and the comment about Shamia's daughter, you can tell she was immediately like, oh my goodness. Like, I think she even either called Kelly or something. She picked up the phone straight away and was like, oh my, she genuinely sounded concerned. And so I don't think you can fake that. And the fact that she's like, yeah, like, we've been through whatever we've been through, but I love you, we're your village, we're here for you. It sounded like she genuinely wanted Shamia to feel better. And even when she was like, oh girl, she doesn't like doing shots, she doesn't really do shots, but yet she was like, okay, because Shamia loves doing them shots, or saying shots, 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 and loves giving people shots to drink. So she's just like, okay, let's do shots, right? As a way to like uplift her. And she was even giving us a freaking strip tease. Her body is banging. What? That body is beautiful. But either way, right? My point is, she really she really went out of her way to try to make Shamia feel better. She didn't have to do that. She could have thought, you know what, we're at dinner. Shamia was out of order. She was passive aggressive towards me. I am not going to entertain her. That is it. That is all. And just like lock off. But instead, she was like, okay, nah, that has happened, but I'm hurt, but I'm still here for you, which I absolutely, absolutely loved. So yeah, I would say big up to Brit on that. Now, I want to shift gears a little bit. I know I've talked about it, but I want to talk about it a little bit more. And I want to talk about the whole Brit Eady suing Bravo business. So I feel like you guys already know my views on this. I already feel like there were certain things that she was saying in that lawsuit, which made me feel like, girl, it's looking like if it wasn't her and it was still pushed like it was her, and they did not do their due diligence to make sure or verify it was her by at least verifying it with her, like that is looking hella negligent, in my opinion. It's looking very negligent. It's looking like, girl, you could have done better about this. You really could have, but you didn't. It's giving Bravo definitely dropped the ball on that. Because, like, why wouldn't you verify that it is her before continuing? Why was there a whole week where you guys allegedly stopped filming, right? You paused filming for a week because of the whole drama. And I'm like, okay, why would you do that if you're not even planning to verify whether or not this is even her to begin with? So I think you would struggle, in my opinion, to explain why she wasn't giving the photo when she asked for it. I think that would be one of the biggest things they would have to struggle with arguing that it wasn't negligent. Now, I don't know what she signed in her contract, because if she had signed that, they have to do arbitration, then maybe they'll have to discuss this in arbitration or something. But I do think she's likely to end up with something. I suspect they're going to settle it out of court. But I do think she's going to end up with something, because if it's not her and people are out here saying there's miles on her mouth and people are talking about her with a PP in her mouth, that is not looking good at all. And yeah, if it's not her, then it's definitely defamatory, right? And so I just think that, yeah, I think, and also the fact that she was talking about being subjected to a toxic work environment as a result of that, those things are very easy to prove because of the scenes with a lot of the girlies, and there's comments about her being all sorts of things, right? Even Angela called her a whore, right? So I feel like there is a lot that she can really bring out from the archives to show that, yeah, that this was really her reality, right? All she has to do is play a couple of clips, and yeah, she's good, right? I will say though that I think for me, the bit that I'm bothered about the most is, and I understand like people have their favorites and all, right? But I've been seeing a lot of people saying like, oh, it's not, if it's not Brit, then why the heck did Kenya get removed from the show? Blah blah blah. I'm like, guys, are we forgetting something? Just because it wasn't her, allegedly, right? Just because we're saying it wasn't her doesn't mean that the result of people thinking it was her means nothing. That does not change the acts that was done by Kenya Moore. And I feel like people just need to, like, I don't understand how people work it out in their heads, because I get a lot of people saying things like Kenya needs to sue Brit and production. I'm like, where is this coming from? Like, where is this coming from? And I know I was listening to Jesse Wu, and I saw some people in the chat that didn't like when Jesse was saying people were slow. But like, I was just thinking, like, where is this coming from with you guys? Some of these people. How would you feel that Kenya can sue Brit for getting pushed out of Bravo for displaying the picture? Like, I don't understand how that calculation is worked out, how that even becomes a thing that makes sense to even say. Please hit that like button, guys. The likes are not matching the number of people in here, so please hit that like button. So it's just like, it's a little bit confusing, if I may say so myself, because I'm just out here looking like, okay, so you mean to tell me that just because it wasn't Brit, you can't understand why that is a problem, or why she may potentially have a claim? That is very weird. People are weird. That's the conclusion that I have now come to. People are weird. That is my final conclusion. Because I'm like, that's the only way that I'm going to really be like, yeah, there's no way in hell. Because, like, think about it. We're literally saying no repercussions for Kenya. I'm not saying we are, I'm just saying, like, some people are saying no repercussions for Kenya. And if anything, Kenya should have a claim because she was pushed out for. No, guys, she still did the act. She put it out, making claims that it was her when allegedly it wasn't. So that is a serious issue, regardless. And so, for like, I know some people are really saying things like, oh, she's gonna come back on the screen soon, blah blah blah. I don't see that happening right now. Not with this lawsuit. Not with this lawsuit. I don't think that is going to happen, not with this lawsuit. Like, think about it. Like, really, think about it for a second. If you, or if someone did that to your family member, wouldn't you tell them to sue? When now everyone thinks like, oh, it's a picture of her when it wasn't her. I would be advising you, like, girl, sue everybody. Make sure all the people that you can sue are labeled. Sue all of them. That's what I would be saying. So I don't understand why. And I'm like, I really would love for people to be able to watch the show. Like, watch the show, have your views about the show, but don't let your personal views about who you like cloud your basic judgment, cloud basic facts, right? The basic fact is Kenya had a whole presentation alleging that this was Brit. Who is this hoe? Right? And there was a whole presentation talking about all of the things that she has allegedly done, right? So if you think about all these things, why would anybody think that Kenya has a case to sue? Like, seriously, why would anyone think Kenya has a case? Like, it just doesn't make any sense to me. Any sense, remotely any sense to me. And so I just think, like, I wish that people would bear that in mind, right? When you're like leaving your comments, like, process it a little bit and just think like, oh, okay, does this actually make sense? Does what I'm saying make any lick of sense? Does it make sense that I'm saying Kenya can sue? What would Kenya be suing for? Exactly. Now, this is not to say that Kenya could not have done something about the so-called power allegations, right? That's completely different. I am talking about this particular scenario when it comes to the pictures, because Brit is the one that has sued about the pictures. So just to clarify, because I don't want people, losing their minds in the chat about it. So just to clarify about that point. But I just think it's something where, regardless of you having your faves, I know that a lot of people want Kenya back, and it is what it is. But I just think like there has to be an element of sort of like an element of like perspective needs to be brought into it, where you just sit down and think for a second, is what I'm saying, does what I'm saying even make sense? Just because this person is my fave, does that even make any lick of sense for this person to sue Bravo because you're being removed off the show for doing this particular instant, or for doing this in particular, right? That's not to say that Kenya may or may not have a claim when it comes to how they decided not to do the treat the Pow Pow incident. She may have something to do there. Who knows? But let's be honest, there's a difference. It wasn't premeditated. Kenya's one was premeditated and was planned out. And so it's going to be harder to prove that there wasn't malicious intent. I'm just saying, right? So anyway, I just really wanted to talk about that because I'd seen a lot of comments, and that really grieved me, because a lot of people were saying like, "Oh yeah, Kenya can come back now." I'm like, "Girl, with the lawsuit, Kenya ain't coming back anytime soon." They're not, because they do not want to continue to take hits in the public with the allegations, with the lawsuit, all of that. They don't want to deal with all of that if they don't have to. Like, yes, they're a big corporation and they get sued all the time, yes. But at the same time, they also don't want a situation where it's like it becomes public knowledge now that, oh, this is how Bravo are and they don't this and all of that. And then the floodgates get opened and more people are suing Bravo every day. They do not want that. So I do feel like eventually Brit is probably going to get into some sort of settlement with Bravo. This is just my personal opinion. I think that even if the lawsuit gets dismissed or whatever, I still think that they will eventually do some sort of what's it called? They would do some sort of settlement in the end. Okay. I'm just trying to think, was there anything else that I missed that I wanted to talk about? Let me just check my notes. But in the meantime, guys, hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Tap that bell button right next to it so you know every single time that I post or go live. Yeah, I think that is all I really wanted to talk about. I think the rest were just like little things that I picked up from the episode, but it wasn't like so big that I really wanted to like talk about it. And also, I did want to make this episode like talking about like Shamea and Portia and stuff. I just thought, even though I could have talked about like some of the things that happened in the van with them and stuff, I just thought I don't want to. I'm tired of talking about the whole Shamea and Portia of it all. So I'm just like, please, I do not want to talk about it now. What I am curious about is what happened at the reunion, because allegedly it was intense. It was intense apparently for Portia, with Portia. Allegedly, it was intense between Portia and Shamea. I do not know what happened, but if you guys have any tea about the reunion, I'm gonna need y'all to enter my DMs. Find me on reviews and recaps on Instagram or whatever. Slide in my DMs, honey, and tell me is reviews and recaps. Okay, it's in my description. And slide in my DMs and tell me what's up, because word on the street is like it was intense. So now you guys know they be editing the heck allegedly, right? Out of these things. So we don't know what we're gonna see in the end, but I'm sure whatever we see is gonna be a little bit spicy. So I think it'll be very, very interesting to see what comes up. But anyway, guys, thank you for hanging with me. Thank you to everyone who liked, who shared, who subscribed. Thank you so much. And yeah, please hit that like button if you haven't already. Thank you so much for hanging with me. Have a wonderful evening or afternoon. For me, it is evening. I am planning to watch a movie, relax. It's been a long ass day. I need to channel my energy into like just relaxation so I can sleep well tonight, honey. So, but yeah, thanks for hanging with me. And yeah, unless something else comes up tonight that is fun enough for me to like, come out of my bed and my movie time for, then maybe you guys will see me later, maybe tomorrow or maybe later in the week. But if you turn on all your notifications, then you know any time that I go live. But yeah, thanks for hanging with me, and I'll see you guys later. Bye everyone. Take care. Bye.